Hello, everybody. This is For the Nation podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your host, Mike Wojcik, and this is episode 34, I think. Before I introduce the guest, I want to take a second to tell you guys something. If you are thinking about buying or selling your house, or perhaps you have properties and you're looking to hire a property manager, give me a call. I don't know if you guys know this, but I am a real estate agent and I love what I do. I'm a real no pressure person, so I'd love the opportunity just to connect and talk with you about your real estate needs. You can find me at dogwoodrealestate.com or hit me up 585-750-7117. All right, so today's guest is another realtor, and it is my cousin. Her name is Amy Stauffer. She is a realtor with John Weber Real Estate out in Boise/Meridian, Idaho. Beautiful out there, let me tell you. Some of the houses that she has shared on social media are, HGTV worthy. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with her and understanding what the real estate market looks like out on the West Coast. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. We'll see.
I know.
We'll see. All right. Well, we are officially recording now.
Cool.
And I am joined today with my cousin and rockstar real estate agent out in Idaho, Meridian specifically. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Meridian.
Got it. Right
Boise.
next to Boise.
Yeah. And awesome. We haven't spoken quite some time. So it's
I know.
Number one, it's really good to catch up and
Yes.
talk to family. But two, I'm really interested to see what's going on in the Idaho and out west real estate market. Given that I'm in real estate now, it's really cool to see like how the market is growing just on a national level, or not growing. It depends on how you look at it and where your market is. So why don't you take the floor and just kind of introduce yourself and tell the listeners who you are?
Sure. So I am, are you Michael now, or can I still call you Mikey?
You could, hey, whatever. It's up to you.
I am Michael's older cousin, and I'm going to be 40 this year. I'm going to out myself. And I've been licensed since 2004. So that's, my math skills are correct. It's almost 19 years, I think.
Yeah.
Around that. But before you get impressed, I haven't done real estate that entire time. It's been sort of off and on. I started in California, got my license out there. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be this big realtor. And I went out and got a brand new car. Man. I think I was 21 years old, and just started realizing that I didn't have the time and the effort that I wanted to put into it at the time. So I sort of pulled out for a while, and I managed other realtors' offices and their transactions and learned it from the back end for a while. And then I worked at Toll Brothers, which is a new home builder. And they, during 2008, obviously had some issues. And so I decided at that point I was going to pull out entirely from real estate. And I hopped into the law field for a little bit.
Really?
I thought like it was very similar to managing real estate transactions because you're dealing with all these crazy people in the law field.
Yeah.
So I worked at family law for a bit. Hated it, got back into real estate. Then I wanted to have kids. So my mom worked at a hospital. I was one of those Nepo babies and got a job with her and worked there for about 9 years while I had my kids. And in 2018, my husband and I decided it was time to get the heck out of California. No offense to Californians.
Yeah.
I do love the state sometimes. So I said, you know what, I'm going to get back in real estate and really focus on it now. And for the last 5 years, it's been a huge joy for me and a huge growth experience. So Idaho has been amazing. I love it here. And the market's been great. And I've made great clients, great friends. Yeah. So that's a long story to basically say I've been in and out for the last 19 years, but I have a ton of knowledge about it because of all those experiences.
Yeah. It sounds like you kind of like just kept coming back to it, which obviously portrays some sort of passion for the industry.
Yeah.
I want to take it kind of chronologically here. You grew up in, I guess I would call it Northern California, but I'm not a California geographical whiz. What was it like growing up there?
When I was a kid, it was really awesome there. It was the place where you could be outside all day, and then you had to come in, like they say, when the street lights come on.
Right.
And so it was really safe. It was really fun. We were out all day with our friends. We could ride our bikes to the store. And then I'd say after I started graduating high school, or once I graduated high school, I felt like the city was changing and the whole area was changing. It felt like it was getting less taken care of. I wasn't feeling safe anymore. And as I grew up, I sort of realized, okay, I don't know if this is where I want to raise my kids.
Yeah. It plays a huge factor into your life. Like when you're at that age where you're like, all right, kids are going to come into play. Mm-hmm. Where you live plays a huge factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm close with my family, so it was really hard. My mom will kill me if I don't say this. It was really hard to leave them, especially.
Yeah.
But when we made the decision to move to Idaho, my youngest was 6 weeks old, our first trip to Idaho.
Wow.
We knew pretty early on that we loved it here. And so we had to break the news to our family, Brian's family, my family, that we were going to hit the road. But the reason that we moved to Idaho is because exactly the way I grew up was in Idaho happening still.
Right.
The safety is there. The cleanliness is there. So.
And just for those listening, when you say the city was growing unsafe, you're referring to San Francisco or Fremont?
Oh, yeah.
Or I guess both of them.
Right. And everything from San Francisco and Oakland, which is, both have great areas of their cities, but the bad parts were creeping into the suburbs, which is where I was living, which is Fremont and surrounding towns there.
Yeah.
We were having more break-ins, more car thefts, more robberies, things like that. And then when Brian and I, my husband and I, were buying our first house, we couldn't afford to be in the suburbs per se. So we had to wind up buying in the city called Hayward, which was, they call it the armpit of the Bay Area. But we had a great house, but there was one occasion where somebody threw a rock through our window. And because of the city we were living in, we assumed it was a gunshot. And so we called the police and literally crawled to our back bedrooms, and the police swarmed our house, and they were like, oh yeah, that was someone throwing a rock.
It's still that's still a crazy thing to have happen.
Right. And then a year or so later, when I had Jameson, my little guy, I was on maternity leave, and there was a carjacking on the street behind me, and there was helicopters swirling over my house, and it was all over the news.
Jeez.
This carjacking, literally behind my house. So we were just like,
something's got to change. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know why. So if you're open to sharing the house that you guys purchased, what was the purchase price?
I think it was $412.
And what was that? How many beds, bath size?
Oh my gosh, it was so tiny. It was 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, built in, I think, 1950. And so it had
so crazy.
All the original stuff. It was the original owner. So no updated kitchen or bathroom. But we bought it because it was on a huge lot. It was on I think a 10,000 square foot lot with redwood trees in the backyard. It was very unusual for that neighborhood.
Right.
So that's really why we bought it, and we knew we could fix it up, and we wound up selling it 4 years later for $700,000.
Almost 100%. That's crazy. And that's kind of where this question's going. Why is it so crazy expensive there? I get it that the market is that's where the weather is, people love living there. Yeah. But even with the crime and all that, how does anybody comfortably live there? That's right. Kind of where the question's going. If you're a teacher making $70,000 a year, and that's high. I mean, that would be a high teacher salary, and you're married to someone else making $70,000. A $500,000 house is very expensive.
Right. You really have to be able to really buckle down and save, and not be out at trendy dinners and putting on your social media all your $10 coffees. You really got to hyper focus on saving that money, because if you don't have someone that can help you, a family member that can help you maybe with your down payment, that's how we did it. My
Yeah.
parents helped us.
Right.
And we paid them back eventually, but when we sold the house, but without that, that was a huge, need for us because
Right.
I think I was making maybe 40,000 and Brian, I think, was making probably like 55, maybe 60 at the time.
Yeah.
So not huge income. Our payments were 2,400 a month.
Yeah.
Until we refinanced eventually, but that was our very max too. We were stretched every month.
Yeah.
So
It's so bonkers to me. And like, I get it when people are living out there when they're saying like, I can barely afford food. It's like, well, I get it. Like, if you are living in a house that costs 50% of your take home pay,
yeah,
like it makes sense.
right.
Um,
But why do people live out there? Yeah, I think you asked me that. I think
yeah.
a lot of it is the jobs. You have a ton of tech jobs and a huge population of younger generation who is into tech. And that's a big, we've got Tesla out there.
Yeah. In Fremont
I don't
too,
know.
specifically.
Yeah, in Fremont. Facebook, Stanford Hospital. I think Survey Monkey, I have a friend that works there, and that's right over there. It's another big tech. Apple.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all there. So you do have people with these high paying jobs that are outbidding all the people that have the normal jobs.
Right.
But I think that, and we had a huge influx of people from other parts of the world too that came to the Bay Area. A lot of generational families had moved out there, and they were moving other family members out there.
Right.
A lot of times people were living in one house with a lot of generations to afford it. So just some of the things I had seen.
Was being a real estate agent in California different than what it's like in Idaho? Like, is it set up any differently?
Yeah.
What are the differences there?
The biggest difference I'd say is that the stack of disclosures in California were like, I'd say 3 or 4 times larger than they are in Idaho. California is a very litigious state. And so you've got disclosures from everything from literally like a special tree frog has an environmental report. There's a huge, it's called a clue report, and they would do all these like history on the insurance claims. Lead-based paint is everywhere.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
There was just the packet was larger, the contract's larger, the seller's disclosures are longer. And here in Idaho, it's not like we do things with a handshake, but we've got a little bit more of that, I think, trust that's been lost in some states.
Yeah.
You have to protect your clients, and your clients need to protect themselves. But we've got a seller's disclosure, a contract, an agency disclosure, lead-based paint if required. And that tends to be the 4 main ones in our packets.
Right.
And the process is very similar. So I was able to transition that way. But like inspection periods tend to be a little shorter here because they usually can get them done quicker. But I think it's a little bit easier as far as that.
Right. So when you were moving, when you guys were thinking about leaving California, how number one, did you get to Idaho?
Okay. So Brian has family here. He had been here as a kid a few times with his stepbrother and his family. And they had been doing a lot of hiking and outdoor stuff. So he kind of has always had an idea of what Idaho's like. But then when he literally Googled the safest place to raise a family, and Meridian and the Treasure Valley came up. And we were already feeling very, not to get into politics, but we were feeling very not in line with our state.
Right.
And so that played into us a little bit of a factor for us as well. I mean, that was 5 years ago is when things were first starting to get kind of even more crazy.
I think it's fair to say, like, most people see it, California has just gone off the rails in some.
Right. Yeah. And so for us, we had always thought we were in the middle, and we wound up not being in the middle anymore because the middle had gone so crazy to the other side.
Yeah.
So that played into a factor when Idaho, we already knew was a very political state to the other opposite direction.
Right.
And so we were curious about that to see kind of how that looked. So we decided, okay, it's family friendly. He's been here. It's got outdoors for my hunting husband, as you can see, right? We have a wood duck on our wall if you can't see. And so we thought, okay, let's just make the trip out there. Let's just check it out. And Jameson was 8 weeks old. I think I might have said he was 6 weeks old earlier, but he was 8 weeks old. And, literally had a bottle of warm water for his formula on the road. We made the 10-hour drive. And it was like, we got here and we were like, jaws dropped. It's clean.
Right.
People are extremely friendly, to the point where I was almost annoyed at certain times. I'm like at Starbucks and I just need my coffee, or at, the grocery store, and my bagger is like really slow because she wants to talk to me about my whole day.
Yeah.
I'm not used to that kindness. And so we were just like, this is amazing. And this is a state that's run very well. We got surplus checks back this year, for example, because of our state's budget being in line.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? When something works well, how easy life could be. Like it's easy enough where people are nice,
Yeah.
Like just the casual things like that.
The DMV. I mean, I got my plates the same day I registered my cars. Within, I'd say my appointment took 20 minutes. That was not with an appointment. I walked in, walked out with plates and registration in 20 minutes. That would take 6 hours in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's incredible. You said you moved to Meridian in 2018?
Yeah.
So interesting. This is where I think it's interesting is you did that 2 years prior to what would now, no one knew then, but the pandemic coming and kind of shutting down the nation. But one thing that you guys did kind of ahead of the time, pat yourself on the back, is look at what happened during COVID, like the mass exodus from New York and California specifically, everyone moving east towards, Texas or Florida or Idaho, these countries, these states that have, a little bit more freedom and a little bit more individual responsibility attached to them. And it's incredible. And I think it just says something about like the way estates ran, in my opinion.
I agree.
So
definitely.
When you first got to Idaho, what were you like? Did you jump right into real estate, or?
I was doing transaction coordinating. I wanted to get to know more about the area. And so what I did was I started working with this company here who actually started it before I left California. I started my training before I left because I got my license for Idaho before we moved. It was part of the planning. So when I got here, I was doing transaction management. And for those of you realtors on here, you know what that is. You have a transaction coordinator, whatever you call them, who takes the file from open to close after it goes pending. So I was doing that to get to know the neighborhoods. Every time I would get a new pending sale, I would look it up online and really figure out where it was located on the map to familiarize myself. And then over the last, I'd say 3.5 years, I started really feeling like the pull to get out of that, to stop working for other people, and to start selling because I think I was ready.
Right.
I'd sold in the Bay Area. Don't get me wrong. Like I did not sell a house till I got here. I'd been doing some there, but full time is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Have you noticed a big difference? Like that's one thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I do it part-time right now, just because numerous reasons. Yeah.
Right.
I have a lot of other things, a lot of other irons in the fire, so to speak. But did you notice a big difference in the effectiveness of you as a realtor going from part-time to full-time?
Definitely. That's not to say that there aren't full-time or part-time agents out there who are kicking butt because they use that hyper-focused part-time to really do what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
But when I was doing it part-time, it would feel like I had a million things to do. And then to get a call to show house, it felt overwhelming to me. Okay, well, I have to show this house, but I also have to send out an addendum for somebody, or I have to like do a repair list for someone. And my bread and butter is showing this house.
Right.
So when I was able to really dial that back, it became much easier for me to make those cold calls, make my sphere calls, and not feel like I was going to miss out on other work because I was doing the bread and butter type activities.
Yeah.
If it makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely makes sense. So it's not like I want to eventually move to full time. But one of the things that I like about part time right now is Um, I don't rely on it to feed my family. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I feel like I can way better serve the customer, the client at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, like it depends up to them. Like I don't want to rush them into a house that they might not like a year from now. Like I have the time on my side to be like, all right, well, let's get you in something that I know you're going to love
Mhm.
5 years from now, 10 years from now.
And that's a good way to be.
Yeah.
You don't ever want to, you're not, we call it commission breath.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like you never want to obviously have that drive where you're just like chomping at the bit to get someone in the house to close that deal and have that commission breath. Like we're here to serve people
Yep.
and to be of value to people. And the people that give us the bad reputation are the ones that are just out there to make that paycheck.
Yeah. So
So,
I don't know. I don't think I asked you this initially. What was it about real estate that drew you to the industry in the first place?
oh my gosh, you're gonna laugh. I was 18 years old, just graduated high school, and I was working at a sporting goods store. And I hated the fact that I had to work all these very specific hours and not make very much money. So I told myself, okay, I'm going to become a realtor when I'm older, a couple years later. Um, and that way I can set my own hours and I can make a ton of money.
Right.
So then when I finally got into it when I was 20, I was like, all right, I don't feel like setting my own hours because I want to go to the movies right now. And I don't want to have someone ask me about real estate while I'm at the movies. And I'm not willing to put the time in to make the money. So clearly my reason for getting into it at first was totally backwards
Right.
because it's a lot of hard work. It is not a career where you make a quick check, and you just set it and forget it. It's literally all day. I mean, you can ask my family if they were here. If I'm not on my phone checking something, I'm on my phone creating a graphic for social media. Or if we're out doing a family event or going to somewhere with a family, I'm taking video of the the location that we're at to create a reel or a YouTube video
Yeah.
to share to my social media. Like it's a nonstop job.
Oh, it's definitely, I understand, like just from my few transactions that I've had, like I can understand how it becomes a full-time job very fast,
Mm-hmm.
or why it should be a full-time job
Mm-hmm.
really fast. I mean, whether you're working on like keeping the deal moving, like there's so
Mm-hmm.
much that happens beyond what the clients see.
Right.
And that is where I think it really can get like, you're like, all right, this is why it's a full-time job. You got to
Mm-hmm.
go help schedule these, inspections, and someone's got to be there to let the guy in. And typically it's
Right.
the buying agent.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a full-time job. What do you
Yeah.
like, buying or selling better? Who do you like to represent better?
If you would have asked me that last year, I would have been like, I want to work with sellers because the seller market was a lot more hot and the
Yeah.
buyer's market was just kicking my butt because of multiple offers and things like that. This year, it's more challenging because our market is slowed. So I like working with buyers right now because we can get them into homes they love
Right.
a lot easier. But
Yeah.
now it's funny because I'm getting listings now, whereas last year I wasn't getting as many listings. So I'm having to shift my perspective. They say you list to last. So it was always a goal of mine to list more homes versus working with buyers. Um, but my passion really is working with buyers. I love helping someone find a house.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I align with that too. It's
Yeah.
there's something about like being able to go into a house with someone and like look at them and be like, are they thinking, like what they could
Yeah.
do to here? Are they making it a home in their mind? What's going on?
Uh-huh.
So to me, that's something that's really cool.
There's definitely a look.
Yeah.
I was just showing properties the other day and we had seen, I don't know, like 3 or 4 already. And then we walked into the 5th one and my client's face just glowed. And I was like, this is your house, isn't it? She was like, yes, I have to have this house. And
Yeah.
I just love that. It's so important. It's such an important part of someone's life.
Right.
So to help them get that achievement is so important. So impactful.
I want to talk about the Idaho real estate market. What I'm assuming since 2020, there's been a huge uptick in both value and demand for housing. Walk me
Hmm.
through that. What was that like?
Sure. So I'd say there was like that slowdown immediate when COVID was like a thing
Right.
in March 2020. It was like, what is going to happen? Are we going to have open houses? Are there going to be showings? And Idaho being Idaho, we opened back up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And even showings for houses, like people would put out hand sanitizer and masks and stuff, but it was like, feel free to show this house. They try to put out an addendum, like a COVID-19 addendum, in case I think someone showed your house and they were sick or something to that, but it never really went anywhere.
Yeah.
Because we had seen such a large influx of people coming from the states that you mentioned, there was no time for us to sit back and see what was going to happen. Buyers were looking at houses and having to make an offer within the hour to get that house. And at that point, people were, doing over offers, like way over. There was a few times where I'd be sitting outside waiting for a showing, and there'd be 4 other cars lined up with realtors because they were all back to back to back showings.
That's so wild.
Sellers were just sitting back and stacking that money, and then, if the appraisals didn't come in, our buyers were having to come in with the money to close that appraisal gap. And that's why we're seeing our return on the investment here in our area. We're on the list right now of people that have lost because it had gone up so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the interest rates having shifted upwards, houses are sitting on the market longer because buyers are fearful a little bit about those payments. So it's now gone back to the buyers in their power. If they can get out and look, sellers are sitting on the market more now.
Yeah.
So it's shifted.
Where do you see the Idaho market moving in like the next 5 years?
I don't see us ever having any sort of a true crash.
Yeah.
And people ask me this all the time because Idaho people want to be here. That's not going to change. I see prices balancing to where they should be. And we always are having building. There's just building everywhere here. And Brian, my husband's a land surveyor, and he's always seeing the new developments going in. And so there's always going to be places for people here. It's just going to be like, do we see prices way inflated or do they settle back down? And I think we're seeing them settle back down because the buying power it's shifted a little, like I said.
What are the main, I guess, employment attractions to Meridian? What'd you say it was called? The Treasure Valley?
Treasure Valley.
Is there a lot of gold rush there, or why is it called Treasure Valley?
I think this is the gem state. So
right.
They kind of, it's part of it, but Treasure Valley encompasses the capital, Boise, and it's Boise, but I'm from California, so I still say Boise. I think I sound like I'm trying too hard if I say Boise. But anyways,
just throw on like a Cali girl accent, like, oh my gosh, Boise.
The Treasure Valley.
Yeah.
But we have a bunch of cities here that, that are all different environments, different suburbs. But we're in a valley right around the Boise foothills. And so our weather's better down here. It tends to be a little less snowy. We really don't get a ton of snow. I have some on the ground right now, but it's just because it hasn't melted.
Right.
But we have a slightly better weather in the valley here. So the draw, you've got mountains and you've got skiing 45 minutes max if you're in Meridian away. If you're in Boise, it's even closer. You've got lakes, rivers, camping, restaurants, trendy downtowns, great shopping. There's an airport right there. There's just so much to do here for kids, for families, for single people. So I don't see people not wanting to be here. Is my point.
I think it's one of those underlooked, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's probably I'm really meaning it in a good light. It's one of those underlooked states that people can, especially out east, like they'll forget about the states in the West all the time.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those hidden gems. When you look at some of the photos of it online, it's just beautiful mountains, like clean air. That's what I'm guessing just from the photos.
Yeah.
clean air.
I
It's
mean, and
just,
I haven't even seen half of it yet.
yeah. Is there a big
So
difference between like northern Idaho and southern Idaho?
I haven't been up there,
No,
but it's definitely colder up there.
right. Well, it
And
touches Canada, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
Coeur d'Alene, which is very hard to write, let alone pronounce. That is the very top, and that's very beautiful up there. You've got some people that have some celebrities that have places up there, but it's cold, and it's on my list to check out. But it's basically like I should fly from Boise up to, I think they said Portland. No, not Portland. Sorry, somewhere in Washington. There's an airport right there in Washington. Then you just rent a car or something. And it's 30 minutes from there.
right.
So, but then so in my part of Idaho, about 3 hours to the west of us is Sun Valley, which is another sort of very like bougie place for skiing, and they have a film festival and all that kind of stuff out there. And we've got McCall, that's sort of like Lake Tahoe of California.
Cool. So I live in Augusta, Georgia now, and I love it down here. It's like perfectly located for us. It's 2 hours to any city that you really need to be at: Atlanta, Charlotte, Savannah.
Cool.
Out west towards like Columbus, Georgia, which is basically bordering Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
2 hours you're in the mountains, 2 hours you're at the ocean. So for us, like it's amazing here. But there is something about being out west. I lived in Arizona for a year, and I just remember it like it's a way different feeling out there. It's hard to put into words. More drier climate, but the weather's so nice.
Yeah,
So
it is.
it's definitely like it's on the bucket list to get out there, and I gotta come see y'all.
I need to get out your way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I need to be out to visit you guys and to spend more time on that part of because it's like the East. I don't spend a lot of time on the East at all.
Yeah. Well,
Even though I have family there, obviously.
Right. It's a lot closer together. I mean, 3 hours and you could be out of the state and 2 states away, you know?
Wow.
But Idaho, I'm sure like 3 hours, you're like, oh, I'm not even close.
Yeah. Depending on which direction you're going, that's for sure. Right. We can get to Utah really quick. I think Utah's max 6 hours to get to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad.
I haven't done that yet, but and I think Colorado's fairly close, but you'll know as your kids get older, it's really fun to go on road trips with them.
Yeah, I'm sure. Jeez.
Flights aren't great either, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a world traveler already. He's been on 3 or 4 flights. He's been great. Super chill.
That's good.
So to take it back to real estate, what do you recommend to young buyers right now? Like that's specifically who I think I really enjoy helping right now, is because they see themselves in a predicament where it's like housing prices are way more than they were 5 years ago and interest rates are higher now. So what are some tips to some like younger millennial generation people to help getting them into a new home?
Okay. So I always tell my clients, my younger clients, my first time home buyer clients, to sit down with your partner or whoever you're buying this house with, even if it's by yourself, and create a budget. And your main thing is obviously going to be your house budget. And take that number. If your number is you can afford $1,800 a month for your house, take that information to your lender and say, this is what I can afford. Tell me how much house I can buy with this. Because I hate when you go to a lender and they say to you, oh yeah, you can afford a $400,000 house. And then your payment turns out to be $3,300 a month with this. Let's just say, I'm just being crazy with numbers. Because that's great. You're qualified for it, but do you want to spend that? Do you want to be house poor? No. So I always say, start with how much you can afford. If that number doesn't equate to a house price in your market that you can afford, then you're going to need to keep saving. And you're going to need to really buckle down and start taking and prioritizing what you need to save. Like I said earlier to you today, don't buy the fancy coffees, the $10 coffees a day. I mean, that's going to save you in 10 days, $100, 30 days, $300 potentially. I mean, who knows if coffee's that much, but by the time you get your breakfast sandwich, whatever with it.
Yeah, no, they definitely can be.
Like that. If you were able to save $300 a month just on fast food or coffee, bump your payment up.
Right.
now you can afford it maybe.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that is, if I can kind of steal it for a little bit,
yeah.
I think that is become a huge issue in today's home buyer, not even just home buying, just in general, but social media has kind of put this onus on this person to keep up with the Joneses, like, oh, I
Right.
gotta be drinking this coffee if I'm gonna be cool. I gotta be in a sick house for my
Right.
first house. And you're like, you can't go zero to hero, like you're not gonna
No.
live in the $1 million mansion that $1 million doesn't buy you a mansion much anymore. But you know what I'm saying? Um,
I hear you.
you're not like, I wish that we could normalize normal homes again, like the
Yep.
house that you grew up in, the house that I grew up in. Nobody
Right.
is finding that as like an attractive house nowadays. And
I
like homes don't
know.
have to be attractive. It's like, it's so much more than that. Like, sure,
Right.
everybody wants the
Right.
Instagrammable house, but it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be.
I know. It's exactly right. Or the vacations,
Yeah.
like the bachelorette parties. Mine, we went to Tahoe. We drove 3 hours, to Tahoe. Now
Yeah.
it's like we're going to Cabo, or we're going on a cruise for 5 days, and we all have to have matching outfits, and spend a fortune on all these. It's just crazy to me, and it's all. I sound like an old person. It's all that social media
Yeah.
that's creating it.
Yeah.
And it does it to me too. Don't get me wrong,
Oh,
because
I
as
think
a
it happens to
realtor,
everyone who's kind of been a part of that social media generation
yeah,
and gets on it. You find yourself eventually being like, you know what? I think I do need that new Lexus. And you're like,
yep,
do you? Like, do you
exactly,
think you really need it?
totally. I do it all the time. I mean, even just buying household items, like, yeah, sure, I need that stupid vase that cost me $30 that I'm going to put a flower in. I mean,
Yeah.
like, come on.
I blame Chip and Joanna Gaines for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally did it. I
Moral,
know.
I mean, HGTV is such a wonder of this world. Like it's got Chip and Joanna Gaines. Like people have to have those sick farm style Instagrammable houses. And then there was the other one. I just think it's so funny to be like, my husband collects acorns for a living and I'm a school teacher and our budget's 3.5 million. You're like, what
Right.
what? Like how are you making that money? Why
I
is your
know.
budget that much?
It's so true, and it's crazy, and it has like the kitchens that all look the same, and the houses that all look the same. There was a great video. Brian sent me a video of someone saying, "Can we bring back like kitchens that aren't gray and white, and brown? Brown can come back.
Yeah.
What's wrong with regular brown? So as I sit here with my gray and white kitchen,
Oh, I'm the same way. I got gray and white kitchen. Yeah.
like it's
But
just kind
I mean, it's fine. It's trendy. It's where it is. But we bought it this way. It wasn't like we
of got it.
designed it that way.
Sure.
Even though we probably would end up doing that. But
Yeah,
um,
it's that's so saving money. I mean, saving money and really working to your budget is a big deal. And it's not everybody has people they can rely on for support. But there's been a couple of people that I've said, okay, well, do you have a trusted friend that you would invest with? Like if there's somebody that you truly, truly trust, because that could be a huge problem. But if they have some money and you have some money, and one of you needs a place to rent out or something, buy it together and then work out a situation where you're paying some of the mortgage. And if you sell the house, it's split this way.
right.
I mean, like there's just baby steps. Buy yourself a tiny condo to start. The Burr method, what is it? Buy, renovate, rent it out, refinance.
And
I don't
repeat.
know if I got them all in that right order.
No, that's right. That's the right order. And then
Okay.
repeats the last
Burr
one.
method. So you kind of like buy something crappy, renovate it slowly as you rent it, as you live there. And then if the market shifts and you get better rates, refinance it, take some money out, maybe buy your new house, or take that money and keep that property as a rental and buy something you truly want.
Yeah. No, real
There's a
estate
lot of
can definitely be
opportunity.
such a good investment strategy. But I think, like you said, though, it's got to be done wisely. And like you can't just be, you have to do your research. You can't just buy just because it feels right. You got to look at the
Right.
numbers,
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a huge fancy house. I want one, don't get me wrong, because social media tells me I should have one.
Right.
But I want to eventually make this house a rental property and then buy my
Buy
dream
the next
house.
house, right?
But I'm trying to do exactly what I'm trying to preach to other people.
Right.
We took this house, we're slowly renovating it. We will eventually keep it as a rental.
Yeah.
And we bought some land last year that didn't have property on it. It didn't have a house on it. We bought the land for cheap, and then we'll slowly build a cabin on that.
Nice.
And that'll become another sort of, hopefully, avenue of income.
Maybe like an Airbnb or something like that.
Yeah. It's up in the mountains. So it's somewhere people want to be. So it's like,
it's incredible.
You kind of have to start slow though.
Yeah.
And comfortable.
Absolutely. What is, do you think, the most valuable lesson that you've learned during your time as a real estate agent?
Well, it's not closed until it's closed. I think that every situation is so different that you have to really go into every situation open-minded and not expect that it's going to work how the situation before worked. And with every personality, every concern of someone else's is going to be different. So I think I've learned to be flexible and sort of a chameleon to help that certain client's needs and personality in order to get them to closing and to get them to their dream house. Yeah. So I think being flexible and chameleon-like to really help your clients the best. That's kind of my biggest takeaways. Yeah. Which sounds kind of weird maybe, but.
No, I get it. 100%. I mean, you have to be
quantified answers. It's more just you have to be flexible.
Yeah, be adaptable and being able to, I guess empathize with the other person, try to put yourself in their shoes and what they're trying to accomplish with buying what is probably the largest purchase of their life.
Yeah. So some people are going to have it experienced they say that buying a house could be as stressful as a death. They literally have said that in studies. And so my goal is to not have my client feel like it's a death. Like I want them to feel like it's the biggest, coolest thing that's ever happened to them.
Yeah.
So if I need to adapt my personality to be more understanding of a million questions, I'm going to answer all those million questions in a comforting way to them so that it's not stressful.
Yeah.
And then, which I may not have this, the next client is going to be, I don't need to know anything. Just send me paperwork. Let's do this. Let's get the house. Let's close.
All right. Well, I'm going to kind of close up this podcast and I'm going to give you the floor. Take as much time as you want. Tell the listeners why they need to get out to Idaho, which I kind of formatted this podcast to be a big sell on Idaho. I think it's cool out there.
Good. Well, I think, first of all, thank you for asking and having me on this.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm so proud of you in life. And I think you're such a wonderful person. And I wish we got to spend more time together.
Yeah.
So thank you to you. And I think Idaho is amazing for people who are looking for the place to raise your family or the place for a fresh start. We're still affordable, much more so than many parts of the country. You're going to have a lot of options for you to do things outside. There's, so many cool places to see here, and the people are just kind, and I hope it stays that way.
Right.
We're growing rapidly, but it's a great place. I say take a visit here. I have a YouTube channel, my Instagram and my YouTube. It's Idaho Realtor Amy. My name is spelled AIMEE. I figure you can do the Idaho Realtor part on your own. But I have a lot of videos that say much more in depth of why Idaho's so amazing and the steps you need to take if you're going to make a huge out-of-state move, no matter where you're going. But I want people to know that if they hired me or they called me, I'm a no pressure kind of person. So, and I like to approach things with a sense of humor and make it fun and enjoyable for everybody. It's got to be enjoyable for me and for you. So I try to approach things lightheartedly as much as it is a serious situation, buying a house. So that's me in a nutshell. I just want people to be happy.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Find their dream home and investment, succeed in life.
I love that. I will, I'm going to tag all your social media links, your YouTube channel, all that in the show notes for this. So people will be able to find you really easy. Amy, thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to getting out to Idaho. We got to get you out here to Georgia too.
Please. Yes, I would love that so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Alrighty, guys. So I'm jumping back on here because I forgot to ask Amy a question about who she is working for, or what brokerage she's under right now. So why don't you go ahead and take that?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking. I'm working for eXp Realty, and I work on a really amazing team here in Idaho, and it's Jonna Weber Real Estate. And Jonna is an amazing realtor, an amazing speaker. She has put together a great team here, and she's an investor as well. So we're able to really help our investor clients as well with our team. So Jonna Weber Real Estate here in Idaho, eXp Realty, which I love, by the way.
Awesome.
So, thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'll add her website, or the Jonna Weber team's real estate website, to the show notes as well. So shout out Jonna Weber. Jonna?
Yep, Jonna Weber.
Shout out Jonna. Well, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, I need you to do something. I need you to share this podcast with your friends. You can do that by sending them links, or just have them follow me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at forthenation_podcast. Again, that's forthenation_podcast. If you guys are looking for me on Facebook, just search For the Nation Podcast. Look for the logo and go ahead and give me a follow there. If you guys didn't enjoy the show, leave them in comments. Let me know what I'm doing wrong, what you guys are looking for. That's the only way I'm going to get better. So, and if you guys want to recommend guests, go ahead and do that as well. I'm always looking for new opportunities. Well, that's it, guys. Till next time.